You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV Network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith Johnson.
From the AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AfterBuzz TV's Boardwalk Empire After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. If you'd like to buzz in on tonight's show, you can buzz us at 424-256-1729. That's 424-256-1729. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AfterBuzz TV's Boardwalk Empire After Show.
Hello, Bing is for doing, and we are doing AfterBuzz TV Boardwalk Empire, Season 3, Episode 10, entitled A Man, a Plan. I'm Keven Undergaro. I'm without my dear Ebony. I'm without my dear Bethany. Bethany is once again doing Homeland because she is once again featured on this week's episode. But I'm here again with my Margaret.
Yeah, believe me, I'm not as strong as she is. The hysterical side of Margaret that we saw tonight, that was me.
What did we? No, we were watching something tonight, and they said it's like you and I. What was?
Her and the doctor.
It was her and the doctor.
No, yeah, kind of.
Introduce yourself.
Kevin's providing me with birth control. Hi, I'm Kristen Carney. And I just want to say happy birthday to Keven Undergaro because it's his birthday today.
My birthday today.
Yeah, happy
and
birthday.
my God, great present to be able to watch this show.
Yeah.
This episode, I mean, granted, I'm excited for. I always love when our little villains that pop up season to season in these dramas get vanquished. So I love those the best. Like I love when the last episode of, I think, season 4 of Breaking Bad, I loved where he took out Gus Fring. And so I love those. But at the same time, this was an amazing episode. I wasn't the least bit bored with anything. Once again, just so rich in story, rich in character. And, you know, thank God we have some fans that appreciate the symbolism, but it was wrought with symbolism.
Right.
And, you know, before I get into it, I just have to say, like, I'll go home tonight and I'll watch Homeland and I'll watch Walking Dead.
Mm-hmm.
I love the great shows. And I'm not saying that this show is better, but I'm down on the fact that it's not getting the numbers that those shows are getting.
It surprises me. It really does, because I think I like Homeland. I don't watch it all the time. I've seen bits and pieces. It seems like a really great show. I don't really watch Walking Dead. Those two don't seem as... I shouldn't say Homeland. I think The Walking Dead. I like things that seem somewhat realistic or represent things that might have happened. The Walking Dead could maybe happen in Los Angeles. Maybe that could be a place. But I don't really connect with shows like that. I like to watch something that resonates, that has a little historical value. So I am surprised, too, that this doesn't get the numbers.
Well, that might be... But that point, unfortunately, that's because you're in, like you said, you're into something historical or biopic, which I'm a geek. I love that. The reason I'm confused is because of the quality of the acting, the quality of how it's shot, the amount of stars and characters, the richness, the costume design.
Well, I think that's actually the answer. I think the amount of characters. I think people like to watch things that are done well, but I don't think everyone wants to watch something that takes a lot of energy to watch. And I do think Boardwalk takes a lot of energy to be involved. You have to know what's going on. If you miss an episode or if you missed a season, this isn't something that you can jump into.
It's so disappointing. You know, you're probably right. And I know with my girlfriend, I always go home and go, you missed the boat.
Right.
You were impatient that first episode. A lot of people didn't love the way Scorsese directed it. Thought it was just a little too glamorous, over the top. But anyone who hung on and let Tim Van Patten take the reins and everything else, like I said, I'm sorry for my girlfriend, because I'm like, you're missing out.
Yeah. And it's a big commitment to go back and watch 2
Oh,
seasons
now, yeah,
to catch
yeah.
up, you know. I did that with Breaking Bad. I started watching season 4 and had to watch season 1 too. You know, it was a lot
And
to juggle.
you made it.
Yeah. And
I-
it was worth it,
Right.
you know.
I did it with Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah.
I finally got into it, and I love it. I love Sons.
Right.
But this is just, I don't know. It's just if you're
You want to take someone by the collar and shake them and be like, "Watch the show."
yeah, because
Are
if
you
you're
nuts?
if you're a fan, like how many people say Godfather is the best film ever made? You know, it's always the best film, if not top 5 or top 10.
Right.
The modern day version is Goodfellas. I really love Goodfellas too, because it fires on all cylinders. You've got the costumes, you've got the music, you've got the great acting,
Right.
you've got the great characters. You have so much going on. It's so rich, and we have that on this show. And I know the numbers. It wins its Emmys, but to know that our numbers are like between 2 and 3 million, it's I don't know. It bums me out.
Yeah, I mean, if you compare those numbers to something like,
Well, like
Jersey
Walking
Shore or something, you're like, come on.
Well, that's a whole other
I
thing.
mean, well, of
but I'm
course,
saying
we
Walking
like Jersey Shore.
But I'm saying, and it's a reality show. But I'm saying, like, comparing it to Walking Dead, which is like off the charts, like 15 million, like
Yeah.
setting records.
Yeah.
Sons of Anarchy, which I think was like 8 million, and Homeland is eclipsing us. It's doing.
Do you think that there's anything that they could do that they're
No.
not doing? Because
Nope.
it seems like this is
No.
pretty much as good as it would
No,
get.
I think it's what you said.
Yeah.
It just must be too much.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just wanted to give a shout out to the creator of the show and the people working on it. I love it.
These are the people that I just would want to hang around. Can I just be around you guys?
Right.
Can I see who you are and what you do to be able to make a show this well? And not even on set, just in your home life. Like, who are you?
Right. Well, just the layering and the symbolism. Mike August. Thank God for him, because he's always touching on this stuff for us. And he'll always give me his catches of the week, which we will have later in the show. And Mike, if I know you're listening, so please give us your Twitter, because I think people need to be able to reach out to you directly,
Yeah.
because you have such a
I
great
got it.
handle on this. You do?
Yeah, it's at Mike August.
At Mike August.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I
Well,
think.
there you go.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get
double check,
verification.
but I'm pretty sure. I tweeted him a couple times, so.
So he said for tonight's Amanda Plan, a canal is a palindrome for Panama, which represents the booze being transported on the water. You and I still don't quite
Wrapping our brain around it.
Right around the palindrome thing. We apologize to our fans. I think if Ebony were here, or Bethany, they're highly educated and cultured.
We're more the personalities.
Yeah,
No,
we're a lot
No,
of
just
fun.
kidding.
Actually, you're the personality, because you're a great comic. I just pay the bills here, so I get to sit here.
Right.
I'm just a super fan. But anyway, the other thing he said was, Jip said his father was a bricklayer or a mason. The Masonic emblem of the square and compass has a G in the center, which represents God, also the grand architect of the universe. And the reason that I agree with Mike that it's all designed in that fashion, because we are seeing the devil and God this season. Jip clearly, to me, is the devil. And the show, tonight's episode opens with Neptune, the god of sea.
Oh, right.
And so it all ties in, and I know even, Richard had a line as Neptune's performing. He's bringing the ice cream cones over, and he says something about a sea serpent. So once again, the serpent, Garden of Eden, devil.
And the Neptune god goes, it's interesting because he goes right into the water and tries to go after the alcohol too.
Yeah, which was
It's like
hilarious.
he's not above it.
No.
Even God the Neptune isn't above
Is
doing
not above
this.
it. Well, he's
No.
not the real God.
No,
right?
he's not.
So, but that was hilarious. So
Yeah.
even if there is not a subtext to it, hilarious that he's like, oh, what, free booze?
Right.
He
I'll
runs
take
down.
that. Who cares about the planets?
It's interesting, when you go back to what Mellon said about how stupid Prohibition was, and I every week I feel it more and more, like how dumb and then it lasted 12 years.
Right.
Crazy.
Well, I mean, anything that we do in retrospect always is so silly. Us humans.
Not everything.
A lot of things.
A lot of things.
A lot of things. Like pulling me over for a ticket that I didn't deserve.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean? You look back on it, it's like, well, that was a waste of time.
Well, but wait, were you wrong?
No, I wasn't.
Oh, that's okay. That's different.
Well, I was wrong.
Okay.
I mean, that's
All right, let's
yeah,
really-
let's forget
really?
about it.
Stay with me.
Tweet me if
I
you
don't
wanna-
have the smart people here to help me.
I'm with you. I'm just.
You have to be smart tonight.
I'm just
Okay.
jaded.
So talking about Richard, it's beautiful what is going on with him and Miss Sigursky.
Yeah.
I love. They have a nice moment. She seems like she's really starting to talk about being the surrogate mom to the boy, and I'm hoping we don't go the tragic route. I'm hoping that boy and her don't have to get killed. I'm hoping that maybe there could be some happiness for him. But again, as we talk about, these shows are tragic. This is more than likely a tragedy that we're watching.
Right.
It's always ironic. So maybe he'll live and they go, and then he becomes the best one in Nucky's army. I hope not.
It could become predictable if she gets killed, or if she's targeted.
Well,
Because, as you said, everything's very Shakespearean, the tragedy.
mm-hmm.
And I like to see that, and I like to see that in the show. But a little relief of it, I think, is needed, and I think that maybe these writers would know that and would, everything in moderation.
It was great to see him go at the dad again, and I thought he was going to take it from the father, because she said, don't. Remember, she said she called him out for threatening to kill him.
Yeah.
I love the fact that maybe I won't kill him, but I'm not going to let him disrespect you like that. And I loved it.
And I love that she doesn't get mad at him for it either. She could say, Richard, I thought I told you not to do that, or I told you to stop. But she accepts it. And we noticed that the father wasn't apologizing when he said, apologize to her. And he didn't.
So that's why I asked you when we were screening it. Is that
Right.
because he was about to pass out, or is he that stubborn?
I think he's that stubborn because he only had said, I'm sorry, about a split second before that to Richard, It's like, I'm sorry. And he's like, no, to her. So I think he had enough in him to be able to say it, but he just chose not to.
Wow, couldn't bring himself to do it. And didn't you love Richard taking off the mask?
Oh, God.
Saying, okay,
Yeah.
this is what you want. You want the monster?
Here he is.
So, Richard, again, half the face is normal, half is disfigured. And that, to me, there's that monster inside him.
Mm-hmm. Just needs to be, just needs to take off the mask, and there it is.
And then there it is.
But she didn't, like I said, she didn't get mad, but she tapped Richard on the shoulder in a gentle, warm way when he was holding down the father after he didn't apologize. And it was almost like, hey, Richard, it's okay. She tapped him on the shoulder.
Right.
He's not going to apologize to me, and I get it, but thank you for your effort.
And he walked out, and she followed him.
And she followed him and didn't stay with the father.
And then poor Richard talks about a Jenny Hastings, who they rode horses together, and of course, between the pony last week, and it's been that resonating theme of horses, and Catches of the Week, Mike August goes into a little more depth about why we're seeing or hearing so much about horses, so I'm excited to share that with you later. But Jenny marries his typical Richard fashion, marries his first cousin,
Right.
and he's alone.
Of course.
But
she has the same luck, and I think that's where they unite.
Where they come together.
Because she said, who I was dating, I didn't get his name, but he ended up marrying this girl, and they had 3 more kids. And she didn't give any reason why he didn't marry her. It was probably, what I'm guessing, is her father. The guy didn't want to deal with her father.
Just didn't deal with that knucklehead.
Right.
They kiss, which was beautiful. And we end with them lying next to each other on the beach. They're the only ones who kind of have a nice episode.
Yeah. And it was very brief.
Very brief. But nice.
Yeah. And I like that. I mean, she didn't seem hesitant because the mask was there.
Oh, no.
She just went for it. She didn't kind of make it awkward. Should I move it? She just kissed what was there, which was Richard.
What I like about it, too, is that, and again, this might just be my opinion, but it seems like between guys and girls are much more, they've really fallen in love with a guy's heart more, or his mind, more than they do the looks, where
of course,
we're just such idiots.
Oh, yeah.
So I buy the
Yeah.
fact that she would love him.
Me too. I mean, I love him.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm very shallow, and I
right.
can do it.
And you love him. No, it's amazing. And last week, we got a great fan letter from Michelle in New York, and she was just mentioned how
her heart melted.
Yes.
Right.
Over the dance last week, and we started crying.
Yeah.
Which we didn't bring up in the show, but we did. It was so touching and so beautiful. And so we love Richard. We root for him. And you said you finally checked him out.
Yeah, I just
Huston
was
out without the makeup, right? I mean, the prosthetic
right,
makeup.
just as a
And he's a
regular
beautiful looking
So
guy.
very handsome. I really couldn't find Richard in him very much. He did in one interview. He did a quick Richard voice, to just show how he kind of chose to come up with
He
that
transformed
sound,
with that voice.
and just instantly transformed. The minute he stopped talking, he was back to Jack Huston.
It's
it's
so
really
great
impressive.
that he's going to have a fantastic career because he like I was watching Dexter today, and it's going to be tough to buy him if he doesn't change his appearance. It's going to be very tough to buy him as the lead doing something else. Same with the guy from Homeland, I feel like. But with Richard, it's nice because, you know, he's going to shave that mustache, going to cut his hair, and fine.
Yeah,
You know,
totally
off
okay.
and running. Okay. Whew. Well, before we go on to our next thing, we're going to have to cover a lot tonight, so it's going to be a long show. So everyone bear with us. By the way, Marissa, how are we on time for someone coming into studio after us?
You're excellent. You can
we
go
can go a
as
little
long
over?
as you
Very
want.
nice. Thank you. Okay, so please, you guys have been great going to iTunes, giving us your great comments and your feedback. We ask that you keep going there and keep rating us and commenting and asking questions. I know
It's a
there's
good
been
birthday gift.
it's a wonderful birthday
5
gift.
stars.
Yes. Yeah, that's nice. Well, it's always
Happy
nice to
birthday.
get. Thank you. It's always nice. Who is that, Marissa? You just found it?
It's Paris Hilton.
Oh, good. Well, that's nice.
She's in studio.
To get the 5 stars means a lot, yes, but we also do love the comments, and a lot of your comments have helped. I know there's been a lot of, you guys have been down on our audio here in Studio B. We've been working on it. Last week sounded better. You said my mic was a little hot, so I know Marissa, you've been tweaking it, but again, this is because of you guys, and we appreciate it. So if you could please continue to go to iTunes and comment if you like to watch us on video. And I always say, you know, audio or video, we're fine, but you know, video, you get to see the girls, you know, whatever, so you get to see what we look like. And if you want to comment there as well, we appreciate that as well. So let's talk about Mr. Gaston Means, Harry Daugherty, Jess Smith.
Wow, Gaston Means. I didn't realize he was so clever. I didn't know he was that
Totally
smart to be
shady.
Yeah.
Totally. Now, Mike August had pointed this out weeks before, and I had done the same research after he did, but notorious weasel of weasels. Like, we talk about Doyle being a weasel, but this guy is
It's one thing if you're a weasel without a brain. It's another thing if you're a weasel with a brain.
weasel with a brain and no feelings. Like, I think that what's his name has feelings, Doyle. He's a weasel, but he has feelings. This guy is a sociopath.
Total sociopath. When he killed, after Smith committed suicide, he just gave him a look like, meh, and walked out of the room.
Okay, yeah, job done.
Yep.
He gets
Thanks,
his 40
actually.
grand. Yeah.
Made it easier for me.
Gets his 40 off Harry. Then he gets 40 off. I mean, this is a guy, just by the fact that he's getting 40,000 off Nucky and 40,000 off Harry Daugherty, he's playing everybody.
Yeah.
And I think that from what we understand, and I hope it's not a spoiler, but he does that throughout history. And I don't think he pays. But I knew Jess Smith.
He lives until about 1938.
Yeah, so we won't see his demise.
Right.
But with oh, maybe not. I don't know how far they're going to take the show. But we do end up seeing, we did know that Jess Smith was going to kill himself. I didn't want to say all these weeks, but I knew. Even from history, I knew.
Yeah.
Before the show. And that's finally happened. So it'll be interesting to see. Harry will still, I feel like, will still be brought up on charges, or he'll be out of there in scandal. But that makes things a lot better, having Jess Smith out.
But Harry and Nucky communicate a little bit, don't they? They could find out that they both paid the 40,000, and then something, maybe the tables could turn on Means a little bit.
Maybe if they work together, but right now they're enemies.
Right.
So I don't know.
And then I think that's the lowest on Nucky's to-do list, is worry about that.
Right now?
Right now,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Right.
But one of his saving graces throughout the show may be his contacts to Washington. It may be what this relationship with Mellon and his future relationships in Hollywood might be what allows him to trump the Capones and everyone else.
It really seems kind of like his only hand.
It's as as we've said, we know in history Nucky does live. I don't believe, no matter what the filmmakers say, where they say they're not afraid to jump off history book. I do not believe that they're going to kill Buscemi. I do not believe they're going to kill Nucky. I think they're going to stick to the plan with history. So ultimately, he's the one to bet on in the long run. But again, it's those kind of legitimate contacts, even though they're shady too. They're much more legitimate than, say, like Capone and those people. Speaking of Capone, poor Van Alden.
The guy can never win. Never can win. You know, he has no idea. He really doesn't understand the world that he's stepping into with this making booze at home. I think he's so in over his head that's why when he was confronted by Capone that he just started reciting the Bible. He's just, I think this is too much for him.
And to him, everything's so black and white. So it's like, I pursued evil, and this is, you know.
Right.
Well, I cannot believe how bad I feel for him, and I'm rooting for him.
Oh, of course. I'm
Like, I didn't like him being manhandled by Capone's guys.
No, and the thing is, Capone's guys don't know what a psychopath he actually is.
Thank you.
So look out, guys. You know, he could really come back and either make your life, or make a moment of your life living hell, or team up with you and you can use him to your advantage, because they really don't know to the extent who this man is.
No idea.
They have no clue yet.
And what I feel like, because O'Banion was so, other than the night he helped him,
Just cold.
and more, I think, yeah, cold and arrogant and sarcastic and
Dismissive.
just not like warm in the way Nucky is warm. Like he makes you feel like you're part of the team.
Well,
like,
you could almost see a warmth from Capone in a sense.
yes,
Even
and
though
that,
he has a fork in
no,
his face.
you know what?
You know?
No. I'm glad that they're showing us glimpses of that with Capone.
Right.
Because as I always say, most of these guys, few of them can just be mean bastards
Without a heart.
and get everything. They have to have some warmth to them, charisma. That doesn't come from being like just nasty and mean and vicious.
Right.
It comes from being charming. It's oh, you're my neighbor, and I don't know, somebody impregnated your daughter, and now we're gonna go take care of that guy for you, you know, because you're our neighbor. Or someone's picking on you at school. Really? Not you're my friend. I'm not going to allow that. And that's how I said, you know, before last episode, that's how Daugherty rose to power. But Capone was known for that too, buying stuff for the neighborhood and giving, opening soup kitchens,
You have to be
medical relief. But he did all that stuff.
Yeah, you have to be like a king of the people.
Exactly.
The people's king.
Right. You have to be, which you see Jip doesn't have.
But that's also an Italian trait too, as
is.
I'm sure you've mentioned.
It is.
Yeah.
But there's some ones that are just cold and mean, and it's all about the buck. But you have to have that layering to you.
I think any smart mafia man would know that.
Right.
Like Jip isn't smart enough to know
No.
that he has to have that side to him in order to really have a
gotta have-
long jet.
And then sometimes I think it's a smart, but sometimes it's also just an it factor. You either have that or you don't.
Exactly.
That
It's
like
that
charming sales side to you, and then you know when you have to kick ass. We see it in Nucky, we see it in Capone, and I was even seeing glimpses of it when he pushed the food across.
Exactly.
Just nice symbolic gesture. And a great director, because a great show don't tell. It's like, okay, I will be vicious with you, but you know what? If you help me, guess what? I'll let you eat.
And he also could have, you know, if he really wanted to be vicious, or he could have thrown the fork at him. You know, you go ahead and eat it, but he handed it to him. Just, you know, really gently right at the bottom. Here.
And from my own plate.
Exactly.
We're together. We're the same. I'm not going to disrespect you like that other guy does. And if they get on the same page, my God, what a surprise Al's going to have, because think of that guy. And remember the deal with O'Banion. O'Banion isn't giving him any money. You're going to work off the debt. Al will give him some money.
Right.
He'll say, you know what, go sell liquor for me. I'll take care of you.
Yeah. Van Alden won't have any, what's the word, solidarity toward O'Banion anymore.
No. I mean, again, we're getting into
That's the right
predictions, but I feel like we know where, I think it's going in the direction that Capone, that he'll work for Capone.
And I think Capone's smart enough to want to utilize someone like that.
When
Whereas O'Banion is still going to bully him around and push him away.
Doesn't care. Yeah, give me whatever I can get. And well, and when, like you said, when they find out, like how tough he is, how smart he is, how fearless he is, how
maniacal in a sense.
And how much he knows the inner workings of the law.
Exactly.
So good stuff. Moving over to Rothstein, Meyer, Lucky, and
Masseria.
Very interesting. We see Rothstein is not having it, and great great life lessons. There was a study that came out a few years ago about how The Godfather is actually a movie that many businessmen use to edify them on business.
That doesn't surprise me.
And as I watch some of these shows that are well written, I'm like, you wonder if these writers are such good businessmen themselves to be able to write this stuff.
Why would they be writers if they, if they were that good at business?
They're not.
How did they come up with these lines, though? You're not. When you're a creative writer, it doesn't seem like you are that business-minded, but they are.
But you can learn from like Rothstein what he said. A deal, like you see a guy like that who's so successful, at least at this point. A deal will always wait. A fool will rush in. By the way, you're looking at a fool hosting the show. I rush into everything. Like, oh, what? You want to do an online network? Yeah. Okay. What do we have to do? 50 shows a week? No problem. Done.
Right.
But I love how a deal will always wait, and that really sticks with me. And I think he's right. And he gave the right advice. Don't be putting a stick in a cage. Sit back. Let these animals kill themselves. Nucky's either going to kill Masseria. Masseria's going to kill Nucky. Sit back. And then we'll move in.
It's very similar to Skyfall, which I saw this week, but where they talk about at the end how the rats eat each other. You let you kill off all the rats, and then what are they gonna? Or you kill off their food. What are they gonna eat? They're gonna eat each other.
Right.
And that's really similar to this situation.
He's smart enough to step back, let them eat each other. And the analogy about the pot shot and pool was genius. It's like, okay, but if I miss, it's okay that I miss because I've put my opponent in such a bad position.
Right.
I've set him up to fail. He's just genius.
That was genius, and then he also psychologically he called Luciano and Meyer. He called them boys right at the end. He said, "Thanks, thanks for the offer, boys," or whatever it was. But
Muppet babies.
Right. He put them back kind of in their place. I am not a boy. I know what I'm talking about, and if I remind them that they are boys, they might not take their plan so seriously,
And I love the parallel between the different languages. So Meyer, to get on Rothstein's good side, is speaking Yiddish, and Rothstein calls him out for it.
Yeah.
And then conversely, when Lucky and Meyer go and have their meeting with Masseria, they're speaking Italian. Of course, Masseria's not having the deal, but I love how Lucky said, no, speak English and respect my friend. And of course, Masseria is all Jew this and Jew that. They have sex through a sheet, and all the craziness. And we know from history that Masseria is all about the Sicilian heritage and old school mafia way of life politics. So we know he's going to be, like he said, I don't trust you, to Meyer.
Right.
And then Meyer also, you can see as a junior businessman, is very smart. Says that will come in time. Let's just work together. Let's prove it. And to gain that trust, sadly, they offer information up on Nucky, which we'll talk about later. That it's going to come and pay off.
Yeah, that's a betrayal. That surprised me.
It's a betrayal. And interesting waters that they're getting into.
Yeah.
To work with Masseria.
Yeah. But when Masseria accepted it, it almost made me not respect him as much because he was willing.
Oh, I don't respect him at all.
Well, of course not.
I think no. I know what you're saying.
But it's like,
what I mean is I don't respect him as a businessman. He seems like a brute. He's old-fashioned. He's not progressive in his thinking.
Right. He didn't want to become partners with them to
He's
learn
racist.
to work with the Jews. He wanted to know about Nucky.
Right.
It's just. I wish he had taken that deal on a more of a, not that the term noble can really be used often in the show, but in more of a noble way of, I want to get into this business.
I
like
or
you
even
guys.
it's a good deal and it works for me. And if you screw me over, I will kill you. So but so let's take baby steps.
Right.
But no, and this is the guy that should have killed Jip. It will now be his undoing for not doing that. It will be Jip Rossetti will be his undoing at some point.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, no, I don't respect him as a businessman. And he's not a very good bocce ball player either.
No, he's not.
He's not very good at that. By the way, just used to be fun in the north end of Boston. They still all were playing their bocce ball.
Oh yeah.
Loving it.
Yeah.
And drinking their
And
wine.
a band that I liked that was from Boston always was playing bocce ball outside of their tour bus, but they were from Boston. The band.
So they Were they Italian?
I've played bocce ball.
Really?
Yeah.
Bocce balls.
Well,
Yeah.
my last name is Italian. I have an Italian family.
Yeah. Filipino, Marissa.
Yeah.
But
That's true.
a Filipino Italian. I love it.
Yeah.
So wait, so you played? Were you any good?
Yeah, it's pretty decent.
You're a good athlete, though. That's why. Marissa's a good athlete. Okay. So, you know what? So we're going to move on to, of course, the crazy part of this episode, which is Jip and the whole world of Nucky. But I wanted to give a shout out about Afterblog. You know, as we've talked about, we do something now on the website called Afterblog, where we have some select writers provide blogs for these shows that just go a little bit more in depth with what we're doing. They have a little more time to prepare. In our case, Jason Scamata is a lot smarter, and he's a great writer. And I can't ask you enough to please go, if you're a super fan of the show, as we are, and you want even more insight, check out our Afterblog, AfterBuzzTV.com/Afterblog. Or if you go to our site, there's a button there. You click on Afterblog, and you'll see all the blogs. I know we do them for Walking Dead, we do them for Homeland, but in particular, I want to mention our Boardwalk Empire because I get a lot out of it. And I have a couple of letters from fans who actually gave shout-outs as well. So this is actually from Mike August. Hey, Kev, I praise Afterblogist Jason Scamata for the following observation in his Afterblog for the Pony. He called it right on the money when he wrote, quote, Nucky broken amongst the splinters of his kingdom, with that last glimpse of Billy tattooed on the inside of his eyelids and at the forefront of his gangster brain forever, end quote. We saw that come to fruition last week. And this is nice. This is kind of like self-serving, but I'm going to read it anyway. Mike says, I want to thank you for making me a smarter writer. I don't say screenwriter because that's a title that must be earned. I love his humility.
Yeah.
My God, you're amazing, Mike. Studying the episodes every week for Breaking Bad and Boardwalk have made me more in tune with the art, especially in truly understanding character. Listening to the podcast is very much like taking a class with you being an excellent teacher. I want you to know I appreciate that. Plus, you and Maria are two of the nicest people I know, and I'm honored to be your friend. He's just great.
Wow.
I love him. Him and Steve, I don't want to say Steve's last name because he likes to be private, but Steve the Steamer have become really great friends of ours through social media, and they're both like just brilliant at how they break this stuff down.
Yeah.
And
Thank God for social media.
we feel the same way. Well, I think there's some of the
Sometimes,
positive
anyway.
things.
Yeah. Right.
He's like, as for Boardwalk, and he's going to have more catches of the week for us later. As for Boardwalk, I'm thinking it would be amusing if Teddy is the one who ends up killing the gypsy man. I think Jip will come to Nucky's home as he believes in things being personal, and they've been building up Teddy as having the devil in him and referencing Jip several times. Would be ironic for Jip to be taken out by a child. Going by the general's hat, perhaps the Ritz-Carlton will be Jip's Waterloo, because he did look like Napoleon with that hat,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
It
yeah.
wasn't just an American
Right.
looking hat. He looked okay. Going back to Afterblog, another fan wrote in, Dear Jason Scamata, or Dear Jason, given that Boardwalk Empire follows history the way it does, I would like to make a couple of observations and predictions based in conjunction with your Afterblog. Agent Nelson Van Alden. He will become a large-scale bootlegger in his own right. In Ken Burns' miniseries Prohibition, he brings up Olmsted Roy. Roy was one of the biggest bootleggers in the Northwest. He started out as a police officer and a bootlegger on the side, but after he lost his job, when caught and arrested, he turned to booze full-time. And with his fleet of vessels, warehouses, accountants, lawyers, messengers, etc., he became the largest employer in Puget Sound. And there's additional information at historylink.org. Pretty interesting,
Cool.
right?
Yeah.
Could totally go that way.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
got the right wife behind him. He's very extreme. He's methodical. Could totally go that way. When he's
Scary,
a little
intimidating.
Yeah, could totally go that way. As for Esther Randolph, I think she's modeled after Mabel Walker Willebrand. I remember hearing about her on Fresh Air. Popularly known to her contemporaries as the First Lady of Law, she was the second woman to be appointed to Assistant Attorney General and was the highest-ranking woman in the federal government at the time. She was an opponent of prohibition, but was a tireless advocate. Among her victories, she brought down George Remus, who operated out of Cincinnati and was the biggest bootlegger in that area. Pretty cool, right?
Very cool.
I know you have a lot to watch and report on, but Ken Burns' 6-hour Prohibition series really fits well in the Boardwalk Empire. Love the AfterBuzz shows. Love the Afterblog. Thomas from Pittsburgh. So, Thomas, thank you for shouting out. Thank you, Jason, for doing your Afterblog. Please keep it up. And fans, please check out the Afterblog. And when you go there, leave Jason your comments, your questions. I know it loves him. It just gives him more, like us, more inspiration to keep going, keep doing it. And about the 6-hour Prohibition series, I watched that when it first came out. I need to watch that again.
I watched some of it.
I think we all need to watch it.
Yeah.
I think Bethany was the one who was championing it for season 1.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I do with a lot of women, I ignored her. So, anyway, which was stupid. And, again, not a smart thing. So, Will, thank you. Please go to Afterblog again. And we'll have more catches the week later. Let's talk about Jip and the fisherman.
Oh, man.
So, by the way, we're seeing water all throughout the sea, the water, the ocean,
Yeah.
Neptune, you know, what happens with waves and how 2 waves come together and crash.
Right.
And, you know, that's just completely wrought with symbolism as well. Anyway, this poor know-it-all cousin of one of his lackeys.
If only he was there in episode 1, he would maybe know.
He'd know better.
He would know better.
We cringed when this guy spoke.
Oh, it was like that slow motion. You want to say
No.
don't do it, don't. You could wish you could turn back time for him.
No, he just couldn't help it.
But if you know, he looked like the guy from episode 1. He was small in stature, a little bit, you know, boxy.
Mhm.
He has on paupers type clothing. He is a guy that maybe knows a little bit about tools, knows nothing about the innards of a mafia, the way you talk to one another, and so you really see him from you know, right from that first moment he's there. You know what's gonna happen.
I thought he was straightened out, and I almost thought for a second he could become useful because he knew the ways of the sea.
Yeah. You know what? This might sound silly, but there was a couple mentions of cats in this episode. Check out the catfish. There was a cat with gas and means. I thought it would have been funny or interesting because the man that Jet first killed in the first episode, he had a dog, and he took the man's dog, which is just like the ultimate.
Jip, of course, yeah.
Ultimate way to shit on the guy.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it would have been funny if, and you may disagree, if this guy had a cat and he takes his cat. I just thought that would have been a little comedic.
But
something.
but it might have been too on the nose.
Too on the nose, too much
for
but
these guys.
I was waiting to see a cat.
It's amazing though, you know, when you talk about like how, as someone who's not as talented as these guys as a writer, how tempted I would be to do stuff like that or to go overboard with the symbolism, and they just do just enough, but it's so layered and so rich.
Right.
And that's why I'd love to be in the writer's room.
And it's not predictable. It's like once it happens, you're like, oh, right, but you're not waiting for it.
And I would buy that at least half of what Mike August comes up with is right. At least half.
Oh, yeah.
But that just shows, but Mike's stuff is so in depth, it just shows how much thought they put into this product. And talent. It's incredible.
Right.
But with Jip, I thought the guy was going to get off the hook. I love the idea that the cousin says he's just a know-it-all, and don't we all know that guy? It was like Cliff Clavin on Cheers, the postman. He just kind of knew everything, you know. Always had, and you know those guys.
Right.
They don't have to be successful in business, or they don't have to be like professors. You know, you go down to Radio Shack and you have guys that just think they know everything, and they just can't keep their mouth shut.
But that's Jip. Jip thinks he knows everything, and then he goes.
I don't think so.
I
think he's very insecure.
Well,
that
he's
he
hot-headed
doesn't.
in the sense.
He's hot-headed, and I think he's insecure because he doesn't know everything.
Right.
So this guy's one of those. Yeah, well, he just can't keep his mouth shut.
Yeah.
And when he ever said, when Jip says the captain was probably whatever drunk or whatever he said, and he said, no, I don't think so. And he goes, no, I don't think so. I'm like, oh, dude, really?
Yeah.
Then the reveal. Jip's talking to everyone down the beach, and he talks about his dad being a Mason. And I have to say in that moment, my dad was a Mason.
Yeah.
My dad was dead at 50, 52. Like, he was young. You know, which is why I laugh. Like someone said here, yeah, you grew up with privilege. Like, yeah, okay.
Right. Right. It was also similar to Artie Lang's father.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I relate to Artie a lot. When we did the movie with him, we had so much in common because we know, like, it's really when your fathers are out there grinding and literally break their backs. My dad was the one that took all the jobs. If you had like a foundation or a little patio or whatever, and it was like on a cliff or in a hill, and everyone would say no. My dad would say, and you couldn't get trucks back there. My dad would say no, okay, and he'd go back there with the pick and shovel himself, or with us, you know, with me and my brother Mike, and it was crazy, you know, and that's why the poor guy is dead, you know, and so for that moment,
it's the guy with the most heart.
I empathized with Jip.
Yeah.
I was with him.
And Jip's always trying to come out of that.
Like my poor guy, dead at 50.
Right.
He would have lived to 100 if he was a fisherman. And I was with him.
Yeah.
Until the camera revealed, the shot revealed this guy buried up to his head.
So sadistic, and
Already-
that's why when you
yes.
say the devil,
He
I
is.
can agree. It's not just this guy who's mean and mean spirited. I mean, that's evil. That is an effed up image.
Yep.
This man, this whole body, there's no escaping that, and it's gonna be a slow. No one would think of that unless you're just sadistic.
And the guy was beat up too.
Just
His
yeah.
face was all bloody.
Right.
And he's there crying, and he's
and
buried.
a family member nonetheless, which I really liked what you said while we were watching. Jip hates his family.
Yeah, so I was like, no, you can't. No,
Don't use that
that's
as an
not gonna
excuse.
work.
Right.
And so this poor guy is gonna drown. Cousin makes the appeal. Please, he's a know-it-all. Please, like he's my mother's whatever. You know it. Anyway, he says, please, it's family. And as he understands family, he's like, okay, I'll do you a solid. And he goes over, and just again another graphic. This show's so graphic, just smashes that skull.
Right. And the minute he picked up a shovel, I obviously knew.
You knew. No, we knew before the shovel. You knew. You
Right.
said something.
Well, yeah, I said this guy. You know, I said he's gonna chop off his head, but we would never see Jip doing the manual labor. You know, he wouldn't be low enough to go over there, and even if he was gonna save him,
No.
he wouldn't scoop him
Never.
out on his own. He'd make someone else do it. So
Never.
it was just like you knew, no way, this guy's gonna his head's.
And as he's pounding away, I'm saying to myself, this mofo's going to get it. Yeah. He's going to get it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be so pleased when he does. And it's going to be interesting. I can't wait.
I've really been enjoying Jip this season because he's so demented.
You
but
love-
this turned my stomach. It truly turned my stomach.
I enjoy him because I want a good villain.
Of course.
But to take out.
But before, I wasn't rooting for Jip to be taken out. I wasn't. I was really enjoying it. But now...
You also get sucked into looks, too.
Well,
talk
I like
about Owen later.
It's the Italian thing. He kind of reminds me of my father and my family.
But
Not in their personalities.
I know, but if he were charming, if he was doing
the charm.
I know, but where's the charm?
He's charming to me.
Yo, redhead. Like, I kind of see it a little bit when he flirts with girls for the first 5 minutes
Right.
so he can get tied up by them.
Right.
But I don't see it. I love him. We need a bad nemesis.
It's not a charm that he puts on, and I don't think he has that charisma as what we were talking about before with Al Capone and Gotti and those guys. But his charm, I think, just comes from his demeanor, his energy, the vibe he puts out. I find it comedically charming.
Well, you know what?
But now
I
we
enjoy
just
it.
turn my
And I
stomach.
want him to get worse and worse and worse because you want to build him up. So I always go back to see how primitive my brain is. I always go to professional wrestling. It's called a comeback in wrestling. You want to see how you want to see Hulk Hogan get beaten. Then he hulks up,
Right.
and he scores
Right,
a comeback
really-
and wins.
Right.
So right
Makes
now,
it that much better.
yeah, Hulk's getting beat up right now. That's what's going on. We're getting beat up, but I'm excited for the Nucky comeback. So let's go into the world of Nucky. Let's start with Nucky and Chalky. We're both happy to see him back, so we love Chalky.
Yeah.
And Chalky offers a great deal, and Chalky's got some great quotes in there. He says, "It'll be black on stage, white in the house." And he says, "There's a certain," and Nucky says, "No, there's a certain line can't cross." He's like, "We need to move that line," which Chalky's right about. So the other observation just two other observations. One, the fact that he says chandelabra, and he was wrong. Obviously he's wrong.
Chandelier, obviously.
And he corrects him. But you notice his reaction is not like Jip, right?
No.
Where Jip is completely hot and psychotic. He's like, it means the same thing. Like, I love how he stayed the course, because I can't tell you how many times I'm in meetings, because I'm the guy that would say chandelabra.
Right.
And then someone, just to take a swipe at you or knock you down a few pegs, will harp on the fact you're wrong about that. I'm like, shut up. Does it really make a difference? Like, let's talk what the big picture is.
Yeah.
So I loved how he reacts. And I also enjoy how smart he is, because he said, you don't want that the remnants of the explosion on the boardwalk. It's not only ugly, it's a reminder of what went on. You need to show order and care. So you see, he's a really good leader. And both of us were heartbroken when Nucky doesn't take the deal. But I said to you, and I know this is more predictions, but I said, don't worry. From the beginning, I said, he's going to need Chalky to help him against Jip. And when he does, in return, Nucky is going
Right.
to let him open his club.
Right. Yeah.
That's my prediction.
Chalky is in the position with Nucky that he needs leverage in order to move that line. And the situation that Nucky's in, that he's not aware of yet, is going to be his leverage for him
He's
to
going to
get
need
his.
it, right, to
Right.
do it. And I love Chalky's last line. You ain't the only one thinking.
Oh yeah.
Right, which
And I
means
love
so much.
and I love that it's spoken in incorrect English,
Doesn't matter.
but it doesn't matter.
Doesn't
He's still
effing matter.
thinking. Right.
Doesn't matter.
Right.
All you goddamn.
It doesn't symbolize.
No, like all you know-it-alls. Like seriously, like
Right.
even like the internet is filled with them. Are you okay?
Yeah. I just had a little sniff.
Too much cocaine.
Oh.
We'll get you some later.
Okay.
Now, you know who's it's huge on the blow? Total coke whore.
Ooh.
Marissa.
I could tell. You can tell by that smile.
All right, now I got to take that back because I don't want to get Marissa in trouble with her
And
parents.
me. I don't.
Marissa's a nerd. Kristen is a coke
He
whore.
meant Coca-Cola.
Okay, yeah, you love it. So, but talking about what was the last thing you said? No, I lost my train of thought.
We were on
Chalky.
Chalky and the speaking his language was.
Well, no, I'm
not
just
right
saying,
on.
like the internet, like there are so many people who will attack you for saying things the wrong way when in essence, like, okay, stop. Can we just? Okay, so the grammar was off. You know what I meant, or you know what the person meant. We even get an AFTERBUZZ.
Yeah.
Like, some of us, like some of our hosts will work like all week long, slaving, putting their show together, and they'll come in and they'll do a great job, but because they say something incorrectly, like I know there was someone on Sons that said to us that were just like hysterical over the fact that either myself or Chrisley said I feel as opposed to I think. You don't feel something, you think, and like
I
just
say I
like
feel a lot.
okay, but
Right.
I know what you mean.
Right.
And I know what Chalky means.
Right.
You ain't the only one be thinking. And I know what he means by candelabra. Bottom line, great effing idea to put in this dance hall, and let's move the line. Let's move ahead. Let's progress. Really smart.
Right.
So I enjoyed that, and I think that it will come back and he'll open his bar. Nucky also, we see him give the orders, and I knew Owen was dead as soon as Eli wasn't going to go with him.
Oh.
No, you're going to Chicago, Eli.
Yeah.
Owen, you're going to go take out Masseria. And
as soon as
I knew he was dead.
Yeah, and as soon as Owen said, it's not an army. You need just one man. And that was kind of his undoing. That line, you knew.
Right.
You knew. Because you do need an army with these guys. And that was really hot-headed of Owen. And again, I think it's a woman making you not think clearly.
Smart. You're right. It's emotions.
Right.
Because he wanted to accelerate things to
Let's
get out.
this done. I'll go down there. Boom. I'll
Boom.
be back. I'll be out of here.
I'll
Nope.
go with Margaret.
And then, the worst will happen.
And when I knew he was gone, you're like, no, I don't want him to be gone. And I said, I'm okay with his wife. I'm okay with him not being on the show anymore. I know you guys like him because he's cute. I'll get you other cute guys on this show, I promise. But I liked Owen last season when he was strong and taking people out. He's done nothing for us.
No, I mean, it's not like he's really moving the show forward.
No, we got Eli. We got Eli to protect us, and we'll have Chalky. We don't
I
need
actually
him.
said this to Mike August about Eli, but I never see Eli strong enough to be a real muscle for.
He's getting there. He was the one that knew what was going on. Don't count him out. He's got Nucky's blood in him.
Yeah.
And he's the one that is, from the beginning, knew things were going wrong. Yeah. Owen last season, yeah. This season, not so much.
Yeah.
But you're right, because of his emotions. And I just loved his.
Well, the no plan, a man, a canal.
Right.
You move through a canal. So now Margaret. It's interesting.
Does a baby go through a canal? Like, is that all tied in, you
Kind of,
think?
maybe. Yeah. Goes through a canal.
But is that tied in, you think?
I think a little bit, and then now he's gone. So there's because you go, there's no man now. There's no plan, and so what a palindrome is something that goes back. It's the same going back and forth. God,
Say again.
when it's the same from the beginning as it is to the end. Vice versa, basically. It's not that now for Margaret. It's no longer a palindrome, a man, a plan. It's like it's over for her. She's stuck, and there's no more canal, and there's no more plan, and there's no more man.
Unless is the palindrome also the fact that Nucky is he a palindrome? You know what I mean?
Well, it was a lot of going back and forth. I think a little bit on this episode, and by that I don't know exactly what I mean, but it's like you think you're moving forward, but you're really going backward. that's kind of how I felt. You think you're going forward. Owen thinks he's leaving, but he's really going backward. He dies. Margaret thinks she's leaving. That's going backward. He's gone. She can't go. Nucky thinks they're going to take care of Masseria. He comes, Owen doesn't go, isn't able to go through with it. So Nucky's now back. It was a lot of like back momentum. And I just kind of picture this sailing on a Panama. You can go up and down and back and forth. And it just felt like this was very up and then very backward. It just seemed
Gotcha.
like you got pushed back through the canal. You were back from where
Okay.
you started.
All right, I'm gonna hope for Mike August and Jason
Help,
Scamott and
Mike,
everyone else to help me
help.
with, please, and our fans, help me with palindromes.
Yeah.
I'm sure it makes sense, but
It just
I need
seemed
it
like the
explained to me.
motion in the episode was very similar to a palindrome, where you're going forward, but then you're going backward.
Let's talk about Margaret and the doctor before we get into Owen. So with the doctor, they're having some flirtation, and let's open our own clinic in the boardwalk. They're shut down, not before she doesn't get her birth control device for her and Mrs. Shearer. But he's like, why don't we open our own place? And my fiance is actually kind of like you, and you just see he's getting hung up on her because we can do great things together, right?
And it's almost Margaret's now showing disinterest, and it's always like you want what you can't have. And it's interesting that the doctor's now showing a little bit more perked up interest in Margaret, because she always seemed to have a little more flirtatious eye to him. And now she was turning away from him, like, I have Owen, I'm not interested in you.
Right.
And then the doctor seemed more interested in her this time.
I was excited because I want her to be with her doctor. I'm rooting for her to be with her doctor.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably not going to happen, but I'm rooting for it. And I knew that Owen was going to get it. So I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. We're moving that along.
Yeah, but, she's now, being pregnant. She's going to have to go to him for perhaps an abortion.
Oh, my God. You're right. You're right.
So,
Good thinking. Okay, so the biggest, the craziest part of the episode, well, other than the sledgehammer to the head, I mean, it was a nutty episode altogether, but Margaret and Owen, we see a piece of their conversation that they cut off, clever writing, and then at the end of the episode, we see the rest of the conversation.
Right. And just like Boardwalk writers, they don't do what you expect, which you think you're just going to replay that scene. You think you're just going to reinstate, she's having a flashback to him, and you're just going to see that. But it goes further.
Mm-hmm. And now
and
I'm
they
wondering.
reveal.
He did say. She said, we'll go to St. Louis, and I thought of St. Louis is interesting because we know Budweiser's there. We know, I'm wondering if there's a connection there. The fact that there's a lot of alcohol in that town, but we'll live amongst the Indians. So probably was Indian country, back then. And it was interesting. He said, or Owen said, we'll at least give it a shot, and that's what made me feel like that's not very committed.
Well, it definitely didn't seem committed because we also saw Katie, and he was doing just as good of a job leading her on as he was doing with Margaret.
So to me, as tragic as Owen's death is, and as much as it seems like it was her ticket out, it might not have been the better ticket.
No.
The doctor would be the good ticket, but it doesn't seem like that was the better ticket.
No, I think if she did go with Owen, I think, one, you have to worry about Nucky finding you. He's betrayed by both his guard and
You're not
going
to have money.
You're not going to have money. Owen isn't an educated man. They're both immigrants.
And you can't 100% trust him.
No, you can't.
So what happens, in time where she gets a little older?
And you go live amongst the Indians, that really, to me, symbolizes kind of wild chaos, wild.
Right, so not a good thing.
No.
And interesting that with Teddy says, how much longer are we going to be here? And she says, not for much longer, which we're thinking subtext is we're going to be on the road to St. Louis. I'm wondering if super subtext is the fact that Teddy gets killed in the crossfire when Jip comes to rain unholy hell on the Ritz-Carlton.
I do have to say, I really like what Mike August thinks about Teddy. Perhaps taking out Jip. Because, I mean, imagine seeing, Jip is such a boy in a lot of ways. He has horrible decision-making, very angsty.
So to be killed by another boy.
To be killed by another boy would be the ultimate way to make him small again, to just deman him in every way. So I think that would be cool. But Teddy is also someone who seems like he would perhaps think he was capable of getting involved, and then he could get hurt or taken out.
Right.
Because, you know, we've seen him with the knife he keeps under his pillow.
Right. You're right. So he could be the one. Anyway.
Either way, it would be cool.
We'll talk more. I know we jump to predictions a lot. We'll get to predictions at the end of the show. It was horrifying to see that box open up and see Owen's face.
Yeah.
Right. That was really horrifying and sad. And I love that they didn't show us anything. They didn't show us the actual death. It was great writing just to reveal the box.
Yeah.
And we know it was because of Meyer and Lucky. So they tipped off Masseria.
Right.
He had his guard up, and sure enough.
Yeah. I thought for a brief second it was going to be the guy's head from Jip. That just was my first instinct because that scene had just been right before this, so it was just an instinct.
And it seems like Jip would send a direct message.
Right, because Jip's that screwed up. I didn't know Masseria was that sadistic. So that's interesting and really shows how extreme
I don't
he is.
see. I don't see that as sadistic. That's business. That's like, okay, this is what you sent someone to kill me.
Yeah.
Now I'm sending it right to your doorstep in your family.
I know, but it seems
to send you a message.
It seems like if they just sent a piece of his body, like a finger.
Well, that might be
or
more
something,
sadistic.
That
though.
doesn't seem as sadistic to me. It seems like a little bit of a warning, like, oh, look at this. But when you send a man's entire body,
I don't think it's sadistic. I think, but to your point, I don't think it's as smart.
Yeah.
The smart play might have just been a body part, or
who
nothing
is
at
that?
all.
Right.
Nothing at all, and like let your enemies think what they will. So maybe now you've basically given him a warning, right? You like Nucky's gotten a big giant red flag. Like, I've got to arm up my army.
Right. But Nucky has to know though that someone tipped him off, and that
I'm sure he's got. Nucky,
and it has to be.
He'll get into that, but right
Luciano.
now, first order business is going to be protect my life, protect my family's life, protect my business. He's not going to go there yet.
Right.
That'll be in the aftermath. But the fact that this guy sent the body shows how in Italians we say gavone, what a gavone is, because he shouldn't have done anything. Just kill him, throw his body out to sea, leave it alone, because you could play it off that Masseria didn't know who was trying to kill him. Someone was trying to kill him. By the way, he's a wanted man. There's a lot of people who want to kill him. And so some random guy comes, you kill him, you throw his body away. But now you're telling Nucky, I know it's you. It's okay. So you're being
There's
a
no
tough
poker
guy.
face in that.
Right. So you're being like, it feels good in the moment. It's emotional. I'll scare you. I'll spook you and your wife and kids. But basically now Nucky's like, okay, it's on. You're officially declaring war.
I get chills.
I know. All bets are off.
Yeah.
But it was very sad, and it was great to see Buscemi, Nucky, at first being like, okay, go back in the room. But when he sees Margaret react like that, you see great acting right on Buscemi's face. It's like, oh my God,
He knows.
they were involved.
Right. And I don't think, Margaret was in hysterics. I thought she did a great job, by the way. I thought her that scene of her, because we always see her so stoic, that breaking.
Well, she was clearly
down.
crying over someone she loved. It wasn't just
Right. But as a woman, coming from a woman, when you do something like that, even though it's completely wrong, you were cheating on your husband, when you do something like that, you almost want to get sympathy from Nucky, in a sense. Like, you almost would want him to understand.
Except one thing. He cheated too, and there was already a severing.
Right.
If he hadn't cheated, I think she would have behaved the way you're saying.
Yeah. I just don't see it bringing them, he's not going to go, oh, my heart goes out to you that you lost your lover. I don't think he's going to soften like that.
You know what? It was interesting that he was knocking on the door. Margaret, he wanted to talk to her.
Yeah.
He has been the guy that's been the bigger man. We've seen it. We saw it with Billy. That said, okay, you did something, I did something. Now someone's going to try and kill us. We got to pull together.
Field. Right.
So that's why I love him. That's why I love him. He's not like that, He's not. It's funny. I feel like Rothstein's on one end of pure business and no emotion. Jip and Masseria are just raging emotion. And then Nucky's kind of in the middle. And that's why I like him, his character the best. Let's go to, and assuming you don't have news, Do you?
I just have a little news.
All right, so let's go to some news.
AfterBuzz TV News.
You know, we were talking about Steve Buscemi before we
Yes.
started coming in.
Yes, we were.
Next week we want to talk a little bit more about Steve's response to the show and to the storyline and all that. But this is
Yeah, I'd like to hear. I was saying to you, you know, during our viewing, I was saying I want to hear more from Buscemi and Van Patten. I want to hear more from these guys and Terrence. I want to hear more of their take on the show. Whereas it seems like Vince Gilligan and Bryan Cranston, they're so present for the audience. They're so along for the ride. I'm not hearing much from these guys, so let's do some research and let's find out, because I want to hear more what they're saying about
in
this.
a way, it does give him a little bit more of a mystique.
It
though.
does.
It's
It
like
does.
the cool guy who doesn't
does.
always show up to the party.
You know, Tom Cruise, it's one of the reasons why he doesn't like behind-the-scenes footage of his movies. Vin Diesel's like that too. He likes they want to keep the mystery alive because they think that you'll want it more. You'll want to see more of it.
Right.
So.
Well, Steve Buscemi is. It just came out that he is going to be with his production company called Olive Production Company, and they'll be filming a documentary about Hurricane Sandy aftermath.
Wow.
And they'll
He's
be
from that area.
Yeah, and they'll be in Breezy Point in Queens.
You know, it'll be amazing. I've seen the stuff he's directed. He's great.
Yeah,
he's
he's
just
great.
a great artist. You know, and him and oh my God, who's the other one? John Turturro, are two actors that I hope I get to work with one day. Really love their work.
Yeah.
Love what they do.
Yeah, just smart artists. And Stanley Tucci actually
Love him too.
co-owns the production company with Buscemi. So it'll be the
Perfect.
two of them
Yeah,
together.
talk
So
about
it'll
like
be
a-
really good.
Another like gem of an actor.
Oh yeah.
Um,
I'd love to see him in a role in this. in
Tucci,
Boardwalk.
100%.
He would look.
You know, it'd be
just
amazing.
fit in right.
No, he'd crush it.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Nope. That's it.
That's it. Okay, so let's go to some catches of the week. And I know I mentioned earlier about Michelle in New York, but she had said about last week's episode, it was just Destroy the Future hour on Boardwalk tonight, wasn't it? Eek, Tommy, Teddy, and Emily all suffered terrible mental scarring. Margaret and Owen made a plan to be happy, which, alas, is certain to lead to anything but. And Nucky spends the episode living in the past, ultimately left with nothing but the mangled remains of the future. And then Rossetti with his asinine ancient hat. He and Masseria are relics. Well, Masseria is a relic. Rossetti might just be plain backwards. But somehow those rickety old boats of theirs have more power than all of Nucky's cars and all of Nucky's men, who can't seem to put themselves back together again. I don't know, guys. It's not looking good for our anti-heroes. Michelle in New York. P.S. Did anyone else's heart melt into goo when it turned out that Richard could dance? And of course, we talked about that. And by the way, great. Really, really, that's Michelle in New York, one of our smart fans, and we love it. So please, Michelle, keep bailing us out.
Yeah,
Send us
I'd
really
like to
smart
send that
stuff,
email.
right?
They'll send it to
Okay,
me.
so then let's go to Mike Ox Catches of the Week. And I was actually, sometimes, you know, I try to censor this stuff because I'm like, okay, maybe that's a stretch or whatever. And I know, but a lot of these are on the money. So bear with me, and there's quite a few of them. Hello, Kevin. Here are some catches for the Milkmaids lot. Birthdays are a celebration of life, and that's why Emily's party is so important to Nucky in the wake of Kent's death. Annie mistakenly calls Emily Hummingbird during her celebration. No, that's a tie back to the hummingbird earrings. And the show spared no expense in using the real Happy Birthday song and not a generic version. So, yeah, because, you know, the Happy Birthday song, like, believe it or not, you have to pay money to use it.
It's
crazy.
insane. Yeah.
I thought Michael Jackson or McCartney owned it. One of them at one point owned it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. The horse on the top of the cake symbolizes that war is coming to Nucky's home. The horse to be ridden by General Rossetti. Will poor Emily be killed in the conflict? And then later, Nucky says, "Pony in a hotel, don't be ridiculous." Further hint that Jip is bringing the war to the Ritz-Carlton. And we know that Jip believes in things personal. And nothing is more personal than invading someone's home during war. I previously, as we talked about, his prediction of Teddy killing the Gypsy Man. The Ritz could be his Waterloo, as I said. The show has been building up Teddy as having some of the devil in him, and we know like Jip is the devil as well. So it's really interesting, and maybe that line of "we won't be here for long" is the war is going to come and we're going to end up going back home, or it means maybe Emily is going to die. So I don't know. We'll see. Or maybe Teddy's going to die. I don't know. I just knew there was more to this, even the subtext of her saying that.
And Teddy has the devil in him. Jip has the devil in him. Those seem like the only two who could actually beef it out.
Right. And I'd say I'd put my money on Teddy.
Yeah.
He's a little smarter. Not as insecure.
A little more mature.
Right. Nucky says, one day you wake up and realize what's been going on. Subtext that he is coming to the realization that Margaret is having an affair with Owen. He clearly did not like seeing her and Owen talking behind closed doors. Well, we know that what happens after tonight.
I'm going to sneak in right there. Tonight, when Owen was leaving Mrs. Schroeder, Margaret, we saw Doyle come in to get him. And he didn't seem to hide anything in front of Doyle because I don't think he thought Doyle was smart enough to know.
Right.
Anyway.
Nucky says, I'll be alone, and that's as good as dead. On the surface, he is talking about getting assistance in war with Rossetti, but underneath, he is really talking about his marriage to Margaret, and he acknowledges her as his wife in this scene. I also think he's just talking in general. When he probably will be. It's Pacino in Godfather 3. He ends up winning. He defeats all the enemies, and he just dies an old man, but he's alone. During Nucky's I am gonna win speech, I believe Rothstein sees Nucky more as a politician rather than a gangster. Mentioning his connections in Washington likely rubbed them the wrong way as well. I like Nucky saying Arnold several times when Rothstein and the other gangsters left. That made me think of Benedict Arnold, and Nucky sees Rothstein as a traitor in the same regard. It's kind of interesting. If that is the case, it would make sense because we had, with the general, General Anthony, Mad General, and whatever his name was.
Yeah, Anthony Wayne.
Yeah, and what was interesting about Anthony Wayne is you touched upon the fact who had an Italian name, Anthony, back then in the Revolutionary War, on the American side.
Right.
So it's very interesting. Okay, Masseria says to Jip, maybe one day you'll make a good general, but Jip puts on the general's hat now, symbolic of him moving too fast, and that will be his downfall. When he put on that hat, I was thinking, all that is missing is his horse. And goes with what I said about appearances being so important to Jip. And also, they did talk about moving too fast. Masseria did. So it's interesting. It's a great pickup. That hat went on way too fast. Now the rhino's horn can be viewed as a phallic symbol. Talking about the sketch with the rhino. It's the rhino waiting for a train. And I said, God, it's got to mean something.
Yeah.
Now the rhino's horn can be viewed as a phallic symbol, perhaps a sign that Tommy needs to be taken away from the brothel, and he happens to sketch a train station as well to back up that thought. The show mentioned Harrow's home being in Wisconsin, and Tommy did ask about that, so perhaps Harrow is going to take Tommy and Julia to Wisconsin at some point in the future. The birdcage, and this is a great one, the birdcage in Remus' home represents him going to prison, and perhaps even symbolic of him singing like a canary to the feds, which
that's great.
He will.
Yeah.
Nucky asks for water twice in the episode when talking about Jip. That made me think of the old saying, they don't deserve ice water in hell, and Jip being viewed as the devil figure. The episode opened with the aftermath of Babette's explosion and closed with the carnage that is to come as Jip dons the general's hat. I love the brilliant ways in which the show mirrors scenes. When Nucky was going over his diagnosis with his doctor, I was thinking revenge is the best medicine. Margaret does not see the hotel as home and views it as a temporary residence. That it is. And little do we know, she's right, but she's right for the wrong reasons. I can see Nucky strangling Gillian as revenge for her involvement in the supper club bombing that killed Billy Kent. Nucky buries her in the same place they buried Jimmy, hence mother and son reunited. Maybe Luciano will turn Gillian's Artemis Club into an opium den as he's involved with the Chinese through the heroin trade. Really interesting, right?
Yeah.
And those are Mike August and Michelle from New York's Catches of the Week.
And Chalky said this isn't China either. Is that what he said? Or this isn't...
This isn't Japan.
Japan.
But you're right. But that would be a little nod to that. And I think China, for him to say China would be too on the nose.
Right.
So it's nice to be an Asian culture, but Japan.
Yeah.
Again.
Great writing.
Amazing writing. I am tired, but we have to go into predictions.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Well, I kind of already shouted out my prediction of Margaret with the abortion.
Okay, but that's a long-standing prediction. Let's base it on what we saw tonight.
I can't
at the
even
end of the
remember
show.
at this point.
We saw
I literally
2 episodes left, mind you.
Right.
So I think that I don't think they're going to be leaving a lot to the last episode. It could be this next episode.
Last season, the last 2 episodes were really intense.
It may be.
So
I'm sure it's going to be intense, but I think some loose ends will get tied up next week. Some, not all. But we see Chalky, And it seems like the very deal that I predicted when we were watching the show is going to come to fruition, where he needs Chalky's help.
Chalky, we saw Chalky with his men standing up against Jip and his men. I hope Jip can't coerce him into.
This is why you're going to love Chalky.
I mean, Chalky's a badass.
This is why you're going to love. He's not only a badass, but like everyone else who's like, oh, Jip has a better deal. Great, I'll take it. He's going to be the one that's going, F you. No, you're an animal. You don't belong in my town. I don't do business with you.
Right.
Watch. He'll be the one to say, F you. You're just a big bully and I don't like you.
Right.
And you're the same guy who would sling us up on trees.
Yeah.
Where Nucky wouldn't.
Right.
F you.
Right.
So it'll be interesting. I think that's going to come to play. Mike, I think the war is going to come to the Ritz-Carlton. They're coming. They're going to knock on his door.
Well, Nucky said as soon as our home, or like as soon as the repairs are done, we'll go home. And I think it might be in Nucky's home. Just if they finish repairing it, they're back there just to hurt their home.
I don't
again.
know. I think. Okay, here's the long lead prediction. Does Jip get it in these next 2 episodes, or do we have him next season?
I think he gets it.
He gets it.
I think he gets it.
I agree. Okay, so we know we can find Marissa. Where do we find you?
I am at Marissa Movies.
At Marissa Movies.
Yes.
Yes, she's on the board, and of course.
And I'm at the bar, but I'm at twitter.com/Kristen Carney.
Twitter.com.
I always say the beginning because I can't just say at Kristen Carney.
You're at yeah, you absolutely
awkward.
at Kristen with a K, Carney with a C.
Yeah.
At Kristen Carney.
Kristen with an E.
Ending with a Y.
Ending with a Y.
Right?
That's why I just spell it out because then I'll get tongue-tied.
And hopefully it's at Mike August. Or is it at Michael August?
No, I'm pretty sure it's at...
We're going to find out.
We'll find out.
And then I know what Jason's is. What is Jason's? What's Jason's, Marissa? Do you know?
I think if you just Google the person's name...
You can find out. Well, he's Jason Skumata. Go to his blog. You can comment there. And... I don't know. I think next week we're back to full power. I think Bethany's done with this. Like, I'm an actress on the Homeland business.
Yeah.
She comes back and does a real job at AFTERBUZZ. Forget acting in Homeland. Yeah. And I think we get Ebony back. And Ebony's going to be so excited because she's been begging for Chalky.
Yeah, she has.
So you're going to get a
lot of
okay.
Chalky. I want to throw this last thing in. My boyfriend you met this weekend.
Yeah, nice guy.
He just sent me a text. Owen deserved it.
Oh.
He's not a fan of the cheating.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't know about that.
He's like, hint, hint, Kristen.
I just don't mind it. Yeah, hint is right. Yeah, exactly.
So.
Be a nice girl.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't be a cheat like Marissa. Or a Coco like Marissa. What?
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Keven Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.